My parents canceled my graduation party because my sister felt left out, so I left. Months later, they saw my Stanford success on the news. I threw the invitation away after it sat untouched on my desk for 4 weeks. My high school graduation party announcement was printed in gold lettering on thick cream cardstock. Mom had custom ordered them and probably spent nearly $180 on the awful things. She handed them to me with a huge smile, acting proud for once. "We're inviting everyone, sweetheart. Aunt Linda, Uncle Doug, the Hendersons from church, your dad's coworkers. This is such a major achievement. I should have known better. In my family, good moments never lasted long enough to actually enjoy them." Everything changed on a Tuesday, exactly 10 days before graduation. I came home from my grocery store shift and found Mom sitting at the kitchen table wearing that expression people use when they're about to give terrible news but want it to sound reasonable. "Claire, honey, we need to discuss the party." My stomach immediately dropped. "What about it?" "Well, your sister has been feeling very left out lately. She thinks everyone is making too much of a fuss over your graduation. Honestly, your father and I talked about it, and we think she may have a point." I stared at her. Amber is 16. She's in 10th grade. What does my graduation have to do with her? Mom sighed like I was being unreasonable. "You know how sensitive she is. She's been crying in her room every night because she feels invisible. All anyone talks about lately is you. Your accomplishments, your future, your college plans. She feels like nobody notices her anymore. Because I'm graduating high school? Something that only happens once." "Don't be dramatic, Claire. We just think it would be better if we postpone the party. Maybe we could do something smaller and quieter instead." Amber suggested a family dinner. "Just the 5 of us. Wouldn't that feel more meaningful?" The 5 of us. Mom, Dad, Amber, me, and my younger brother Ethan, who was 12 and completely uninterested in the drama. He only cared about Fortnite and pizza rolls. "You want to cancel my graduation party because Amber is upset that people are congratulating me?" "We're not canceling it. We're postponing it." "For when?" Mom hesitated. "You're being selfish right now. This is exactly the issue. You always need attention." The irony nearly made me laugh. I had spent my entire life being invisible. Amber, with her bright blue eyes and golden hair, had always been perfect in everyone's eyes. When she threw tantrums at 13, she was expressing herself. When I got upset at 13, I was difficult and needed to work on my attitude. Amber made honor roll once in 8th grade, and Dad took her to Disneyland. I had been on the honor roll every semester since 5th grade, and the most acknowledgement I ever got was, "That's nice, honey," while Dad scrolled through his phone. She wanted dance lessons, so she got dance lessons. She wanted a new laptop, so she got one immediately. She decided she wanted to play guitar, and after 2 lessons there was already a $350 acoustic guitar sitting in her room before she lost interest completely. Meanwhile, I worked from age 17 to buy my first car, a beat-up 2009 Honda Civic with a dented passenger door and a cassette player that barely worked. I paid for my own gas, insurance, and repairs. I applied to 12 colleges and got accepted into 8, including my dream school across the country. I earned a partial scholarship because of my grades and test scores. I had done everything right. And now they wanted to erase my graduation celebration because my sister couldn't handle 4 hours of attention being directed at me. "I'm not postponing my party," I said calmly. "You already mailed invitations. People bought gifts. Aunt Linda is driving 4 hours to come. We'll call everyone and explain," Mom replied. "They'll understand." "I don't understand." Dad walked in then, still wearing his loosened work tie. "What's going on?" "Your daughter is being unreasonable about the party," Mom answered. "Our daughter graduated in the top 10% of her class, and you're canceling her celebration," I said. Dad rubbed his forehead. "Claire, your mother and I already made a decision. We're doing the family dinner instead. Amber deserves to feel important too. By taking something away from me." "How does that make sense?" "Because you're 19 now," Dad said. "You're an adult. You should be mature enough to make sacrifices for family." Sacrifices for family. Right. Like how my entire childhood had been sacrificed so Amber could always feel special. "Fine," I finally said. "Cancel the party." Mom actually smiled. "Thank you, sweetheart. I knew you'd understand once we explained it." I walked upstairs in silence and locked myself in my room. Then I opened my banking app. I had been saving money since I was 17. Every paycheck from the grocery store. Every birthday gift from my grandparents. Every dollar I could manage to keep. I told my parents it was for college, which was partly true. But really, it was my escape fund. The balance showed $9,154. Not a fortune, but it belonged to me. Money they couldn't control. I opened my laptop and searched for apartments near Stanford. Move-in wasn't until August, but some places offered summer leases. I could work full-time, save more money, and settle in before classes started. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Aunt Linda. "I'm so excited for your party next week. I'm bringing your graduation gift early so you can use it for college shopping. I'm so proud of you, honey." My eyes burned instantly. I replied, "Actually, the party got canceled. Family situation. But I'd still love to see you for coffee if you have time." She called me less than a minute later. "Canceled? Claire, what happened?" And suddenly, everything poured out. 19 years of frustration finally broke loose. Amber's jealousy. Mom's manipulation. Dad pretending my feelings never mattered. The constant favoritism that shaped my entire childhood. Aunt Linda stayed quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Pack a bag. You're staying with me until school starts." "Aunt Linda, I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking. I'm telling you. Pack enough for several days and meet me at Morrison Street Coffee Shop in 90 minutes. We'll figure everything else out later." "What about Mom and Dad?" "What about them? You're 19. They can't stop you from leaving." She was right. I was legally an adult. They couldn't force me to stay. So I packed clothes, toiletries, laptop, and every important document I owned. Birth certificate, social security card, bank paperwork, scholarship letters, everything needed to start over. When I carried my duffel bag downstairs, the house felt strangely normal. Mom was cooking spaghetti sauce in the kitchen. Dad watched the news in the living room. Amber stayed upstairs, probably texting friends about how she convinced everyone to cancel my celebration. I headed for the front door. "Claire," Mom called. "Where are you going with that bag?" "Out." "Out where?" "Dinner's almost ready." "I won't be here for dinner." She appeared in the doorway, still holding a wooden spoon. "What are you talking about?" "I'm leaving. I'll come back later for the rest of my things, but I'm staying somewhere else from now on." Dad stood up immediately. "You are not going anywhere. Stop being ridiculous. I'm 19. I can go wherever I want." Mom's voice turned sharp, the same tone that terrified me when I was younger. "Claire Reynolds, put that bag down right now." But it no longer worked on me. "You made your choice when you canceled my party. I'm making mine now." Amber opened her bedroom door upstairs. "What's happening?" "Your sister is throwing a tantrum," Dad snapped. "I'm not throwing anything," I replied. "I'm just done. I'm done being the backup child. Done being disposable. Stop pretending this is a healthy family when everything revolves around manipulation and guilt." "How dare you," Mom whispered. "After everything we've done for you." "Like what? Cancel my graduation party? I guess I should thank you for teaching me how little I matter here." I opened the front door. Dad's voice thundered behind me. "If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back." I looked at him for a long moment. His face was red with anger, like he was somehow the victim. "Okay," I said quietly. Then I walked away. Mom started yelling about respect. Amber started crying. Dad shouted that I would regret it. I climbed into my Honda Civic, threw my bag onto the passenger seat, and drove away. My hands shook so badly I had to pull over twice before reaching the coffee shop. But I made it. Aunt Linda was already there with 2 coffees waiting at a corner table and pure determination written across her face. "You did the right thing," she said the second I sat down. And I completely broke down. She let me cry for nearly 10 minutes before handing me tissues and squeezing my hand gently. "Your mother has called me 14 times already," she said. I ignored everyone. "She's probably furious. She's panicking because you finally stopped backing down. Your entire life they trained you to shrink yourself so Amber could feel bigger. They never thought you'd stand up for yourself. What if I made a huge mistake?" I thought carefully about that question. 19 years of being second place, second choice, second priority. Every accomplishment ignored while Amber's smallest achievements were celebrated endlessly. "No," I finally answered. "I don't think I did." Aunt Linda smiled softly. "Then let's focus on your future. You can stay in my guest room as long as you need. Tomorrow we'll collect the rest of your belongings while your parents are at work, and then we'll get you ready for Stanford." That night my phone exploded with messages. "Mom, you're tearing this family apart." "Dad, this is what happens when children grow up ungrateful." "Amber, Mom has been crying because of you." Then Ethan texted separately. Are you coming back? I miss you. That one hurt the most. Ethan had done nothing wrong. He was just a kid trapped in the middle of a terrible family dynamic. I texted him privately. I miss you too, buddy. This isn't about you. I'll see you soon. Promise. I ignored the rest. Graduation day finally arrived. I crossed the stage in my cap and gown, shook the principal's hand, and accepted my diploma. Aunt Linda cheered louder than anyone in the crowd. Afterward, several friends' families congratulated me. Strangely, it didn't feel empty without my parents there. It felt peaceful. None of my family attended. Not even Ethan. Later I found out Amber had conveniently scheduled a dental appointment at the same time and insisted the whole family come support her because she was nervous about getting her teeth cleaned. Mom and Dad actually agreed. Summer passed quickly after that. I worked full-time at a local bookstore, saved more money, and spent most of my free time with Aunt Linda. She helped me buy dorm supplies, taught me budgeting basics, and gave me the college guidance my parents never bothered to provide. The bookstore became a safe place for me. My manager, Diane, was a retired English professor who slowly learned my story. She never pitted me, but she listened whenever I needed to talk. Sometimes she added books about family dynamics or personal growth to my employee discount pile with a quiet smile. One slow afternoon, she looked at me and said, "You remind me of my daughter. She had to leave home young too." Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is recognize when staying in the same place will slowly destroy them. I started spending my lunch breaks in the psychology department library, reading everything I could about narcissistic family systems, golden child and scapegoat roles, and the long-term effects of emotional neglect. Every chapter felt uncomfortably familiar, like someone had somehow documented my entire life. The validation was comforting and painful at the same time. Aunt Linda noticed the stack of books I kept bringing home, and eventually we began having deeper conversations about family patterns and generational trauma. She told me stories about my mother's childhood that I had never heard before. Apparently, favoritism existed long before I was born. Aunt Linda had always been overlooked while my mother received most of the attention and praise from their parents. The same unhealthy cycle simply repeated itself in the next generation. Your grandmother used to throw huge birthday parties for your mother every year. Aunt Linda explained one evening while we assembled a bookshelf for my dorm room. Professional decorations, catered food, pony rides, the full experience. My birthdays were usually just sheet cake and a few relatives sitting in the backyard. That sounds familiar, I said quietly. When I asked why things were different, your grandmother always claimed your mother needed more attention because she was sensitive. Aunt Linda tightened another screw into the bookshelf before continuing. I left for college and barely looked back. I worked 3 jobs because they refused to help with tuition. They said they had already spent enough money on your mother. When I graduated with honors, they skipped the ceremony completely because your mother had a salon appointment that afternoon. I stared at her in disbelief. I had no idea. Your mother never learned how to share attention, Aunt Linda said calmly. So when she became a parent, she repeated the same pattern without even realizing it. Amber became her, and you became me. It still isn't fair. No, it isn't. And it isn't your fault either. But that's what happened. Do you think she'll ever understand what she's done? Aunt Linda shrugged slightly. Some people never do. They become so focused on their own perspective that they can't recognize the damage they cause. My mother died believing she treated both of us fairly. Your mother may do the same thing. That realization hit harder than I expected. This cycle might never truly break. My mother might never wake up one morning and understand how deeply she hurt me. I could spend years waiting for an apology that would never come. How did you stop being angry? I asked. Aunt Linda gave me a sad smile. Who says I stopped? I just learned how to build a life meaningful enough that the anger stopped controlling everything. That's really all you can do. Create a future so full and worthwhile that the people who hurt you become side notes instead of the center of your story. In August, I moved to California. Stanford was everything I hoped for and more. The campus was beautiful, my classes challenged me in the best possible way, and for the first time in my life, I genuinely felt like I belonged somewhere. Making friends became surprisingly easy. My roommate Sophie was a computer science major from Seattle with an endless coffee habit and an incredibly sharp sense of humor. We stayed awake late into the night talking about everything and nothing at all, and she never made me feel like I was either too much or not enough. I joined student organizations, attended campus events, and completely immersed myself in academics. Psychology had always fascinated me, and now I was learning from professors who were experts in the field. I was thriving in ways I never could have back home. My parents reached out occasionally during those first few months. They sent awkward texts asking how school was going and emailed links to articles they thought I might enjoy. In October, Mom mailed me a care package with homemade cookies and a short note that read, "We miss you." The package sat unopened on my desk for 2 days before I finally looked inside. My favorite cookies were there, chocolate chip with walnuts, the kind she used to bake for special occasions. There was also a brand new Stanford sweatshirt with the tags still attached, along with a framed family photo from 6 years earlier. I stared at the picture for a long time. We were standing on a beach, all 5 of us smiling at the camera. Ethan was still little, missing his front teeth. Amber looked genuinely happy, not competitive or bitter. And I was 14 years old, still believing things might eventually improve. Sophie found me sitting on the floor with the photograph in my hands. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. I honestly don't know. Part of me wants to call them and say thank you. Another part wants to throw everything away. And part of me feels sad because I can't even remember the last time we were truly happy together. She sat beside me quietly before speaking. "Can I tell you what I think?" "Yeah. I think grief is complicated. You can grieve the family you wanted while still protecting yourself from the family you actually have. Both things can exist at the same time." She was right. I could miss the idea of supportive parents while still accepting that my actual parents were emotionally harmful. I could hope they would change while also understanding they probably never would. I kept the cookies and shared them with people on my dorm floor. I donated the sweatshirt because I already owned several Stanford hoodies. And I placed the family photo inside a drawer, not because I wanted to destroy it, but because I couldn't handle looking at it every day. But despite all their messages, my parents never truly apologized. They never admitted canceling my graduation party was wrong. They never acknowledged how unfair my childhood had been. So I kept my distance. I answered politely but briefly, giving surface-level updates while avoiding real emotional closeness. Ethan and I stayed connected through texts and video calls. He told me about soccer practice, school, and whatever video game obsessed him that week. I told him stories about California and college life and sent him random bunny memes. He kept asking when I would come home, and I kept saying, "Soon," even though we both knew it wasn't true. The truth was simple. I had no desire to go back. That house had never truly felt like home anyway. The biggest turning point happened 7 months into freshman year. I applied for a competitive research position in the psychology department, something usually reserved for upperclassmen. It was a long shot, but my academic advisor encouraged me to try. I got it. Not only was I accepted, but the professor specifically praised my application essay and my understanding of early family dynamics and their long-term psychological impact. Apparently, personal experience had become useful in academia. The position came with a small stipend, enough to help with books and living costs. More importantly, it carried prestige. Freshmen almost never received opportunities like this. I was working in a real psychology lab, helping with legitimate research that would eventually be published in an academic journal. My name would appear on that publication. At 19, I was already building credentials for graduate school and future career opportunities. I posted a simple announcement online with a photo of myself standing in the lab, holding a clipboard while wearing my visitor badge. Excited to begin my research position in developmental psychology. Dreams really do come true. The response was overwhelming. Old classmates congratulated me. Professors left supportive comments. Even people I barely knew reached out with encouragement. But the comment that affected me most came from Mrs. Carter, my high school English teacher. "I always knew you were meant for incredible things, Claire. I'm so happy to see you succeeding." I screenshot the comment and sent it to Aunt Linda, who responded with at least 15 heart emojis. What surprised me most was the silence from my immediate family. No likes, no comments, nothing at all. Even Ethan, who normally reacted to everything I posted, stayed quiet. Later, I learned why. Amber had apparently created a family group chat specifically to criticize my post, calling it attention-seeking and accusing me of showing off. She convinced everyone to ignore it together. The whole thing would have been funny if it wasn't so sad. Meanwhile, professors, classmates, and old teachers had left dozens of supportive comments online. Aunt Linda even shared the post publicly and wrote about how proud she was. I didn't think much more about it until my phone rang 3 days later. Mom. I almost ignored the call, but curiosity made me answer. Hello. Hi, Claire. How are you? Her voice sounded overly cheerful, the exact tone she used whenever she wanted something. I'm fine. Busy with school. I saw your post about the research position. That's wonderful, honey. Really impressive. Thanks. Well, your father and I were wondering if maybe you'd come home for spring break. It's been so long since we've seen you. Amber misses you too. I doubted that, but I didn't say it aloud. I'm planning to stay here over spring break. I have work. Surely you could take a few days off. Everyone would love hearing about your research and classes. There it was. Extended family, church friends, neighbors. They wanted their Stanford success story back home so they could proudly talk about me to other people. Now that I had something impressive enough to display, suddenly they wanted me around again. I'll think about it, I lied. Wonderful. We'll start making plans. Then she added carefully, your father and I also thought maybe we could finally make things right. We realize we may not have handled your graduation celebration very well. We could throw you a delayed party while you're home. Invite everyone. Make it special. May not have handled it very well. That was probably the closest thing to an apology I would ever receive. I'll think about it, I repeated. I have class now. I hung up before she could continue. Sophie looked up from her laptop. Let me guess. Family. My mom wants me to come home for spring break, so they can throw me a party and show me off now that I finally have something they consider impressive. Are you going? Absolutely not. She grinned immediately. Good. We're going to Mexico with Lily and Hannah. I already bought your plane ticket. And just like that, spring break plans were settled. 4 college girls, a cheap resort, and 1 entire week without family stress. It was exactly what I needed. We spent mornings at the beach, afternoons exploring local markets, and evenings trying different restaurants while laughing until our stomachs hurt. Lily taught us basic Spanish phrases that we completely mispronounced. Hannah turned every moment into an Instagram photo shoot. On the 3rd night, we ended up in a small bar with live music. The band played American songs with a Latin twist, and the atmosphere was impossible not to enjoy. We danced until our feet hurt, drank fruity cocktails far stronger than they tasted, and talked about our futures. I want to open my own practice someday, I told them over the music. I want to help kids who grew up in families like mine. I want them to understand none of it was their fault. Sophie raised her drink. To Dr. Clare Reynolds, future therapist and destroyer of toxic family systems. We all toasted to that. To the lives we were building for ourselves. To futures that belonged entirely to us. I posted photos from Mexico online, sunsets, beach pictures, drinks, and happy moments with friends. Mom left several voicemails asking why I never came home. Dad sent an irritated text accusing me of being disrespectful. Amber said nothing at all. That should have warned me something was coming. The real explosion happened in April, right before finals. I had been invited to present my research findings at an undergraduate symposium, an incredible opportunity attended by professors, graduate students, and visiting academics from other universities. My professor personally recommended me, saying my work showed unusual insight for a first-year student. I posted about it online, thanking both Stanford and my professor. Then Stanford's official social media page shared the post. Soon after, my hometown newspaper published a small article titled, Local Graduate Makes Waves at Stanford. The article mentioned my scholarship, research work, lab position, and my professor's comments about my future in psychology and graduate school. My phone immediately exploded with notifications. Neighbors, former teachers, distant relatives, and people I hadn't spoken to in years all suddenly wanted to congratulate me. And then Amber called. I almost ignored it automatically, but something made me answer. What? She snapped immediately. Do you enjoy acting superior? Amber, what are you talking about? Stanford this, research that, everyone talking about how amazing Claire is. Do you know what it's been like here? Everyone keeps asking about you and bragging about your accomplishments while I'm just the other daughter nobody notices. The irony was so unbelievable that I actually laughed. You can't be serious. I am serious. You left, and somehow everything is still about you. You're not even here, and you still take up all the attention. Mom and Dad won't stop talking about you. I almost ignored it automatically, but something made me answer. What? She snapped immediately. Do you enjoy acting superior? Amber, what are you talking about? Stanford this, research that, everyone talking about how amazing Claire is. Do you know what it's been like here? Everyone keeps asking about you and bragging about your accomplishments while I'm just the other daughter nobody notices. The irony was so unbelievable that I actually laughed. You can't be serious. I am serious. You left, and somehow everything is still about you. You're not even here, and you still take up all the attention. Mom and Dad won't stop talking about you. Every family event turns into the Clare show. Nobody even asks about my life anymore. Amber, I'm sorry you feel that way, but no, you're not. You love this. You love finally being the important one. Then her tone sharpened. So I told everyone the truth. I told them you abandoned your family over a stupid party. I told them you're selfish, ungrateful, and only care about yourself. I told them everything. My stomach tightened instantly. What exactly did you tell them? The truth. That you chose a party over your sister's feelings. That you ran away from home, throwing a tantrum like a child. That Mom and Dad tried so hard to fix things, and you refused to forgive them over one little mistake. Then she added, I even called Aunt Linda and told her how you manipulated everyone with your fake sob story. A cold feeling settled in my chest. What did Aunt Linda say? Amber hesitated briefly. She hung up on me. But only because you've clearly turned her against the family. Or maybe, I replied calmly, it's because she knows you're lying. I'm not lying, Amber snapped. You abandoned us. I left after 19 years of being treated like I didn't matter. There's a difference. Amber scoffed immediately. Oh my God, you are so dramatic. We treated you well. Better than well. We gave you everything. No, I corrected calmly. You got everything. I earn what I have. There's a difference there too, although I don't expect you to understand it. Everyone is finally seeing who you really are. The perfect golden child act isn't working anymore. Is that honestly what you think this is? An act? Strangely, I felt calm during the conversation, almost detached, like I was watching someone else speak. Amber, I spent my entire life watching you get praised for doing the bare minimum, while I had to be perfect just to receive acknowledgement. And when I finally achieved something worth celebrating, it was taken away because you couldn't handle 4 hours without being the center of attention. I paused briefly before continuing. So yes, I left and built a life without all of you. And I'm happier now than I've ever been. That isn't fake. It's simply what happens when I stop shrinking myself to make you comfortable. You're such a... I'm done with this conversation. Don't call me again. I hung up and immediately called Aunt Linda. She answered on the first ring. I was just about to call you, she said. Amber completely lost it on me. She contacted you? Oh, honey, she did more than call. She showed up at my house screaming that I ruined her family by helping you leave. Your mother was with her. My stomach tightened instantly. Mom was there. They cornered me after my morning walk, Aunt Linda explained. They started accusing me of turning you against them and convincing you that you were too good for your own family. Amber was hysterical, crying, yelling, saying awful things about you. I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. Don't apologize. Do you know what happened next? Your mother started agreeing with her. I felt numb listening to her. She told Amber she was right, that you had always been selfish and difficult, and that they should have been stricter with you growing up. Claire, I have never heard a parent speak about their child that way. I swallowed hard. What did you say? I told them exactly what I thought. I said they spent 19 years ignoring you while prioritizing Amber. I told them this entire situation started the moment they canceled your graduation party out of jealousy. And I told them you were succeeding at Stanford precisely because you escaped their toxic behavior. She paused briefly. Then I warned them to leave my property before I called the police. Did they leave? Eventually. But not before Amber had a complete meltdown. She started screaming that you stole the life that should have belonged to her, and that it wasn't fair for you to become successful while she stayed home feeling average. And Mom. She stood there agreeing with everything Amber said. What about Dad? He stayed in the car the entire time. Didn't even step outside. He just sat there while his wife and daughter harassed me on my own porch. I sat down heavily on my bed, phone pressed against my ear. This is insane. No. Aunt Linda replied gently. This is reality. This is who they are. Then she continued carefully. And honestly, I think Amber unintentionally did you a favor. She showed you that no matter how successful you become, they will never truly celebrate you. They'll always find a way to make your achievements about themselves or punish you for outshining Amber. She was right, although hearing it still hurt. The difficult thing about dysfunctional families is that part of you always hopes things will improve someday. You keep believing they'll eventually understand what they did wrong, apologize sincerely, and finally change. You hold on to that hope even when every sign suggests otherwise. Amber's breakdown destroyed that hope completely. Over the following days, the full extent of her actions became clear. She posted a long message on social media claiming I had abandoned my family and started acting superior because I attended Stanford. According to her, I had cut everyone off for no reason, refused to come home during breaks, and thought I was better than my own family. Of course, she conveniently left out the canceled graduation party, years of favoritism, emotional neglect, and every detail that explained why I left in the first place. The post spread quickly around our hometown. People who didn't know the full story began criticizing me, calling me arrogant and ungrateful. Former classmates who had never liked me joined in. But then something unexpected happened. Other people started speaking up. Former classmates who had witnessed my family dynamic firsthand shared their experiences. Teachers mentioned noticing the obvious difference in how my parents treated Amber compared to me. Family friends admitted they had always felt uncomfortable watching the favoritism. People remembered seeing me work multiple jobs while Amber received a generous allowance. They remembered my parents skipping my academic award ceremonies while never missing Amber's dance performances. Some even recalled hearing my parents minimize my accomplishments while exaggerating hers. The version of events Amber tried to create slowly collapsed under the weight of reality. Aunt Linda eventually posted a calm but firm statement explaining that there was much more to the story than Amber admitted. She never directly attacked my parents, but she made it very clear that important details were being intentionally ignored. Then Mrs. Carter, my old English teacher, commented publicly. Her message nearly made me cry. I taught both Reynolds' daughters. Claire was one of the brightest and hardest-working students I've ever had the privilege of teaching. She earned every opportunity she received. I'm not surprised she's thriving at Stanford. I'm surprised she tolerated her family's treatment for so long. Slowly, public opinion shifted. Within 72 hours, Amber deleted the post entirely. Ethan later told me she had a huge argument with Mom afterward, screaming that everyone was turning against her and blaming me for the whole situation. Mom tried calling me several times. I didn't answer. Dad sent a long email. I never opened it. Around 2 in the morning, Amber sent one final text. I hope you're happy. You destroyed this family. I blocked her number and went back to sleep. Finals arrived and passed quickly. I finished my first year with a 3.98 GPA and was invited to return to the research lab as a paid assistant. By summer, my professor was already discussing graduate school recommendations and possible PhD programs with me. At 20 years old, my future finally felt bright. I stayed in California over the summer to continue working in the lab and take additional classes. Sophie and I rented a small off-campus apartment for the next academic year. It was tiny and expensive, but it was ours. Aunt Linda visited in July. We spent the week exploring San Francisco, hiking through Muir Woods, and eating incredible food. She met my friends, toured the research lab, and attended one of my summer lectures. One evening over dinner, she looked at me and said, "Your parents missed out on an incredible daughter. That's their loss, not yours. Do you think they'll ever understand that?" I asked. She considered the question carefully. I honestly don't know. Some people are too proud to admit they were wrong. And even if they eventually do understand, Claire, you still don't owe them forgiveness. You don't owe them a relationship. You don't owe them anything. I stayed quiet while she continued. I used to believe family was unconditional, that no matter what happened, people should always stay together. But families are supposed to offer unconditional love and support. What your parents gave you wasn't love. It was approval based entirely on whether you made them look good without overshadowing Amber. She shook her head slightly. That isn't family. That's manipulation. In August, we flew back to Aunt Linda's city because I needed to pick up some belongings I had left in storage before moving to California. We carefully planned the visit around my parents' work schedules and Amber's summer activities. Ethan met us there. He was 13 now, taller, thinner, and his voice had started cracking when he talked. The moment he saw me, he hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "I missed you so much," he whispered. "I missed you too, buddy." The three of us had lunch together afterward. Ethan talked nonstop about soccer, school, new friends, and books he had been reading. He barely mentioned our parents at all, which told me everything I needed to know about life at home. Eventually, he pushed fries around his plate and asked quietly, "Will you ever come back?" I looked briefly at Aunt Linda before answering honestly. "Not to live here, but I'll visit. And when you're older, you're always welcome to stay with me in California." "What about after college?" "Ethan, I don't think I'll ever move back permanently. This place doesn't feel like home anymore." His face fell slightly, but he nodded. "I understand. Aunt Linda told me what happened with your graduation party. That wasn't fair." "Who told you?" "Aunt Linda. She said I deserved the truth because everyone else was lying about it." I reached across the table and squeezed his hand gently. "None of this is your responsibility, okay? It doesn't change how I feel about you. You're my brother, and I love you. That will never change." "Even though I'm connected to them?" he asked quietly. "Especially because you're connected to them. Someone in this family has to turn out normal." He laughed, and the tension finally eased. That afternoon, we sorted through boxes at the storage unit. Yearbooks, childhood awards, stuffed animals, old photographs, and pieces of a life that no longer felt like mine. I kept a few things, but most of it was donated or thrown away. There was no point carrying memories that only caused pain. As we loaded the final box into Aunt Linda's car, my mother's SUV pulled into the parking lot. Ethan immediately went pale. "They're not supposed to be home yet." Mom parked a few spaces away and stepped out slowly. She looked older than I remembered. More tired, too. She approached carefully, almost like she thought I might disappear. "Claire," she said softly, "I heard you were in town. We're leaving. Can we talk? Just for a few minutes." Aunt Linda rested a hand on my shoulder. "You don't have to. I know." I looked at my mother for a long moment before answering. "You have 10 minutes. We walked a short distance away so Ethan and Aunt Linda couldn't hear us clearly. Mom twisted her wedding ring nervously, a habit she'd had my entire life. "How are you?" she asked. "I'm good. School is going well. I love California." "That's wonderful. I saw the article about your research." "Yeah. You're accomplishing incredible things, Claire. I'm proud of you." I had waited my entire childhood to hear those words, and somehow they felt empty now. "Did you come here to apologize?" I asked directly. She flinched slightly. "I came to tell you we miss you. Things aren't the same without you." "That's not an apology. I know we made mistakes with the party and how we handled things. You canceled my graduation celebration because Amber was jealous." "That wasn't a mistake, Mom. It was a choice. One of many choices you and Dad made over 19 years that showed me exactly where I stood in this family." "It wasn't like that." "Then explain what it was like." I kept my voice steady. "Explain why Amber got everything she wanted while I had to fight for scraps of approval. Explain why it was fair to cancel the one event celebrating my accomplishments because your other daughter couldn't handle not being the center of attention for 4 hours." Amber was struggling. I was struggling too. My entire childhood. The difference is nobody noticed because I didn't scream or throw tantrums. I just worked harder hoping maybe one day it would finally be enough. I paused. But it was never enough, was it? Because the problem wasn't my achievements. The problem was that I wasn't Amber. Tears filled her eyes. "I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to admit you were wrong. I want you to acknowledge that you treated me unfairly. I want you to take real responsibility instead of describing everything like it was some misunderstanding. I did the best I could. Your best wasn't good enough. And I'm not going to keep pretending otherwise just to make you feel better." She wiped at her eyes quietly. "So that's it. You're cutting us off forever. I'm living my life. If you want to be part of it, you know exactly what needs to happen." Then I added calmly, "But I'm done chasing after you. I'm done making myself smaller so you can keep believing you were a good parent." I walked back toward the car. Ethan was quietly crying while Aunt Linda held him close. "Let's go," I said softly. We drove away, and this time, I never looked back.